Hi, I'm Bex. This is my face. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I have for you a treat, an actual treat, and it was a treat for me too because I actually did not mess this one up. I'm so excited. Today, I have two illustrations that I'm gonna walk you through and talk to you about that I made. Hey, banana. I am so stinking excited about this. This drawing went so smoothly and I was actually really surprised, but learning from the previous train wreck that I had with the potted plant drawing, oh my god. So after learning from that one, I tested all my supplies first. I knew they worked well together. First of all, I did my sketch off camera because whenever I'm sketching, I am like an inch away from my paper, like with my face. And so if I tried to do that on camera, like you wouldn't see any of it anyway because my giant head would be in the way. The first thing I did differently that made this go so much smoother is I used supplies that I was comfortable with. So I am outlining everything with a Tombow calligraphy pen, but it's got the brush style nib on it, so it lets me get thin lines, thick lines. I can vary the pressure and get just a very dynamic looking piece. I waited till everything was fully dry before I erased it. I didn't have any smudges or smears, and now I'm going in with my Ohuhu markers. They are alcohol based and they work like a dream. I love them. I use them often. I know how to blend them. I'm comfortable working with them. So all around, like I set myself up for success with this picture. So you may be wondering, why a banana? I have no good answer for you. When I first started getting into my digital illustrations and doing a lot of art on my iPad, one of my favorite drawings that I made was just of a banana peel, a discarded banana peel. And to this day, it is still my favorite picture I think I've ever drawn. And so I just have in my head that I draw bananas and they look good. Like I like to draw the banana. So I thought, well, let me try one that actually has a banana in it. Like it's not just the peel. That's that. I don't know that I have anything else to say about this drawing here. This was a really enjoyable process, just being able to sit down, draw something I'm relatively comfortable with. Again, I've drawn bananas and banana peels before. It's just a thing that I enjoy drawing and using tools that I'm comfortable with. Just, this was a dream. This went so amazingly, like just so much better than the illustration I tried to do last week. I didn't have quite all the colors I wanted to be able to do this illustration. I wish I'd had some lighter yellows for the actual like banana itself, so that could be a little bit lighter. So I kept trying to go darker with the peel to give it more of a contrast, but I didn't want to go too dark and then it just looked brown. So that was a little bit of a struggle. Ultimately, I am happy with how it turned out. I just wish I had a little bit more variety in the colors of markers that I had to use. Just a few more finishing touches and then she's gonna be done. I'm just so ridiculously happy with how it turned out. I'm absolutely going to hang this on my wall above my desk. I tried to go in with some highlights, but you couldn't really see them showing up at all, so I just kind of gave up on that and called it quits. So happy with it. So the next picture, again, I sketched it off camera so I could just, you know, not be kind of stressed out about it and worrying about whether or not the camera can see or anything. I wanted to keep with drawing food and fruits because that's just a thing that's really enjoyable to me to draw. I like drawing food. So I decided to draw a pile of citrus fruits. So in here there's lemons, there's limes, and I think the big one is supposed to be a grapefruit. I don't know if that really came through or not. You're gonna have to tell me later. Like you'll see. The thing that I did differently with these pictures that really made the most difference is when I sat down to do my sketches, I used a reference picture. And I don't know why I can't get it in my head that I need to use a reference picture if I want my art to turn out well. I think when, you know, I first started drawing and getting into art, having to use a reference picture to be able to draw something, to me it kind of felt like cheating. Like it felt like, well, I should be able to draw from my head and just be able to do things. Like I felt like using a reference was, I mean, not even like tracing, just having a reference to look at. I felt like it was like using a crutch. And I was just so frustrated with myself for a long time that I could not just take what was in my head and put it on a piece of paper. And so I resisted for so long ever using a reference because I just saw it as like, as an artist, as weakness. And that is so backwards from everything. Like using a reference is the smart thing to do, and everything turns out so much better when you use a reference. Like I'm sure at some point I'll be able to say, okay, I've drawn enough bananas, I know how to draw a banana, I know what a banana looks like, or I know what this piece of fruit looks like, but using a reference is such a huge and valuable tool. Now, not using a reference like, oh, just tracing over it, but having a reference to look at so that you're putting on paper what you're seeing. Like, and the more I use a reference, like the easier it becomes to use a reference. Like I've seen my art just, as far as quality, it has improved so much in just a few months, simply because I have forced myself to use a reference for literally everything. So if you're in the same boat that I was in and thinking that you shouldn't or don't want to use a reference, I'm going to tell you, please, please use a reference, because I spent so long not using one and then feeling like I was a terrible artist because none of my work looked the way I wanted it to. But every time I use a reference, every single time, I end up with something I am very, very happy with. So that's the moral of this story. Use a reference. So I'm going in with my colors, and I didn't realize till later I had picked out entirely the wrong marker out of my bin. This was not the color I had intended to use, and I genuinely didn't even notice. I didn't notice that I had picked the wrong color until probably about 10 or 15 minutes after I'd colored this entire thing in. I was like, oh no, this was not the right color. So it turned out a lot more vibrant than I intended for it to look. And to be very honest, I don't actually know what a grapefruit looks like.
Oh, Rebecca, I thought you used a reference.
I did for the sketch. For the coloring, I kind of worked myself into a pickle. So if you notice, I have two camera angles happening here. I have an iPad where I do a lot of my drawing and work, and I have a phone. And so once I had everything set up and I realized my reference picture is on my phone, but I was using my phone to record, so I could not also look at my reference picture. So as far as the colors go, I had to just wing it. But honestly, a lot of my illustrations, by the time I get to the color, I just kind of do what I want anyway, and that's where I make a lot of my stylistic choices. So I'm just kind of going in, trying to deepen things up where I can. The trickiest part was, you know, because I don't have super light colors, you know, I have very rich and vibrant colors for my markers. And so just like with the banana that I'd wished that I'd had a lighter yellow, I wish that I'd had some like super light pastel colors, just so that I wouldn't have that stark white inside the fruit. Like I would have liked to have essentially muddied that up a little bit, just so it wasn't so stark. So that's the only thing with this one that I ended up a little bit unhappy with, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the entire process, trying to figure out how to do the insides of the lemon and the lime and the grapefruit was fun. You know, if you ever looked at the inside of a fruit, it's not just a solid color, like there's those little swirls and pockets and things around it in there. So like that was fun to figure out. And I've got to say, the most fun thing about this drawing in particular is just how colorful it is. Like I know it's a lot of like yellows and greens, but then that bright just pop of pink, even though it's so much brighter than what I had intended it to be, it's just fun. It's just so bright and colorful. Most of my artwork, apart from my, you know, like banana illustrations and food illustrations and stuff, I do a lot of really dark themed artwork. You know, I like skulls and ravens and crows and plague doctors and skeletons, spooky things. I like spooky things.
The spooks.
So a lot of my artwork is a lot darker. So having something so bright and so colorful, it was a little bit out of my comfort zone, but I'm so happy with how it turned out, and it's just so cool. So I'm not like against colors, just it's not what I typically gravitate to when it comes to artwork. So it was fun. It was a fun little break from my usual style, and I really enjoyed it. It was a fun time. Oh, my camera is shaking violently. I'm so sorry about that. I have a really janky camera set up when it comes to filming my artwork like this, like from the top down. So any little movement or touching the desk, like it just shakes all over the place. I am so sorry. Eventually I'll fix it to where it's not so bad.
But today is not that day.
It's gonna be bad for a while longer probably. Just adding some of my finishing shadows, which is the most satisfying part, is adding all the shadows to the last little bits. And lastly, I went in with my white gel pen and added all the little wiggly highlights to the insides of the citrus fruits. And that really just made the whole thing come together. You can't see them quite as well on the lime or the lemon, just because the color that was on there to begin with was so light, but really it just adds a whole other dimension to the picture. It really brought everything together. I'm very, very happy with how it turned out. And there it is. She's done. So that's it. That's how I made this
Stinking awesome banana.
Like, honestly, I could not be more excited about this. And this pile of citrus fruit, I really like this one, and I also really enjoy the composition of it, that it doesn't take up the whole page, that it's not completely centered, that it's just the top and I have this white space at the bottom. So that's all I have for you today. If you like this video, make sure to give it a big
thumbs up.
And if you'd like to see more videos like this, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and hit the bell icon so that you're notified every time I post. I try to post a video at least once a week, and that's it. Go make some art, use a reference. I'll see you next time. Bye.